just like to start by apologising. I have a small little cough that only bothers me when I speak. And I tend to speak a lot, so it's a permanent affliction. I'm just going to run you through the development of our heritage trail on the Luphead Peninsula, and a bit like Joanne earlier on, it's kind of a story of something out of nothing. We ended up with something that we didn't really end up starting out with. First of all, the development of the Wild Atlantic Way has been a complete game changer, and I think anyone who lives on the west coast will tell you that. It will bring in and has brought visitors from all over the world to parts of Ireland that they have never heard of before. Indeed, to parts of Ireland maybe I've never heard of before. But the danger of it is that it all becomes the same. It's beautiful, it's wild, rugged. We've all seen the videos. But for all that, it's in danger of becoming a blur. Look, a stunning video on the windscreen of your car. So, what we set out to do, and I think the challenge for any other destination along the Wild Atlantic Way, is to turn the Wild Atlantic Way into our Wild Atlantic Way. We have to take ownership of it and define it for ourselves. What's the difference between the cliffs in Kilkee, the cliffs of Moher, the cliffs in Sligo, in Kerry? Not a lot, but what's different is the people and their story, our heritage. Now, we have a bit of history in this regard, if you'll pardon the pun. Our maritime heritage was a key component when we won the European Destination of Excellence in 2010. So the likes of the West Clare Curragh Club and Shoal Shunna, which was a leader-funded project which built a Shannon hooker. That way. The theme here today is achieving change. And that's a slow process at the best of times. And the Luphead Heritage Trail has definitely fit into that. We didn't set out to develop a heritage trail. Basically, in 2011, we wanted to identify a route around the peninsula that would give visitors the best perspective of the peninsula. So we had to take our prejudices and preferences out of the picture. So we had to look at it as if we were a visitor to the peninsula. What was the best places to see? And not only that, but we were very careful to look at it as what was the best place and from what viewpoint was the best place to see. So that's why we put directional arrows. That was our recommendation for you to drive around the Luphead Peninsula. We did a pretty good job, because I think that's pretty much on the button, the Wild Atlantic Way route, 3 or 4 years before the Wild Atlantic Way. So that's a triumph of public consultation. The next logical step, of course, was to fill in the blanks around that. So with the help of leader funding, we developed a series of maps, largely based along the same route, but we just tailored them to different activity groups, just to encourage people to wander around the peninsula and to see that there was other things to do. So there was active on the land, active on the shore, food. There was this one, Explore the Shore, which was for kids. So we kind of turned it into a treasure hunt. So they got, Mommy, Daddy, I want to go out and find these things on the beach. One of them was a heritage trail. There was a lot of work in all of those things, and we realised very early that we couldn't actually do it ourselves. So we set up a number of focus groups: food, activities, walking. One of them was heritage and culture. And the next easy option was to look at who was taking part in heritage and culture on the peninsula already, and to see how their interests could match our interests. What they were producing, how could we make use of that? So we spoke to some local historians. We spoke to the likes of the Civic Trust in Kilkee. We initially identified 27 sites. Actually, Sue's husband Jeff was and Daltonmouth was very a key part of identifying these. So these were the initial 27 locations that we identified. The next thing up, in the winter of 2013, we put a proposal to Clare Local Development Company to fund a 12-week heritage course called Learning from the Landscape. The key outcomes are on the screen. I'm not going to read them out, but I'll let you read them. The basic format of the course was 1 day a week. We would have field trips to visit graveyards, churches, castles, ring forts. We were to learn why things were built, why they were built, where they were built, the influences that they had on us as a community. This was initially a group of, it started off with 16 people, and they ranged from everything: accommodation providers, activity providers. We even had 6 people who had no involvement in tourism whatsoever. But I think they had a kind of a kernel of an idea that they'd like to get into it, and this was their interest and a route in. So we ended up with one German girl who has, she set up guided walking tours in German, which is a huge boon to us because the German market is a great market for what we're selling. We had a Napoleonic battery, which was in somebody's front garden. I mean, literally, if you threw the tea bag out the window, it would land in the Napoleonic battery. So they're looking at bringing that in as an open day, so teas and coffees, cafe type of thing. Very low-key, booking only. But it's a really niche little thing, and it's a really great insight into a really unique piece of history. We had 2 other women who set up, they had a project on Henry Blake, who was a local historian and craftsman, and they opened a little museum and craft and gallery shop. So many of the things that came out of this project or course, they also fed into existing projects. So our guided walking, guided cycling, the activity, other accommodation providers all learnt stuff from this heritage course. Basically, it gave a deeper knowledge of the peninsula. It meant more engaged and more knowledgeable providers, and they passed this on to the visitors. This is a list of some of the lecturers that took part. So as you can see, it's a very varied and a cross-section of the heritage on the peninsula. The thing here was not to produce experts. We just wanted people who would be able to deliver a sense of the place to visitors who asked. And hopefully they would generate further interest in specific subjects, which we could follow on and would lead to other smaller projects. At the end of the course, each person had to do a project, and we chose to give an exhibition in a local hall at the golf club in Kilkee. We invited the local community, Fáilte Ireland and Clare County Council, and to say we were surprised at the turnout is an understatement. There was over 200 people turned up at the golf club to view these exhibitions and to talk about the local heritage people. We had invited the local heritage officer from Clare County Council, Angela Maguire, and she was just totally bowled over by the enthusiasm, the energy, and the results of the heritage course. So, carpe diem. We sat down with, we had Fáilte Ireland's local guy there as well, Michael Fitzsimons. So we sat down with him and we sat down with Angela, and we said, we can't lose the energy generated here. We've got to use this. So we needed to develop a deeper heritage trail. And at the same time, I think Fáilte Ireland were starting to explore how they would get a deeper engagement in the Wild Atlantic Way from visitors. So timing is everything. A proposal was put together by us with Fáilte Ireland, Clare County Council, and the Heritage Council of Ireland. So basically, we were trying to turn the Wild Atlantic Way from what Paddy called earlier a strip of tarmac into something better, deeper, and more personal. The project was funded by Fáilte Ireland, Clare County Council, and the Heritage Council, and a company called Active Me were the company that were undertaken to take the project on. So a small committee, which always works best, let me add, preferably of 1 or 2. It wasn't quite that small, okay? It wasn't quite that small. Sat down with Angela and the Active Me team, and with a bit of community participation, we narrowed the 27 initial ones down to 14. Now, it made sense also to include the 4 discovery points on the peninsula as to have their heritage included. So that gave us a total of 18. So once the sites were done, this was the hard work. Next bit was the hard work, research and information. So they started off the desktop search. It was factual, would have been looking at the likes of Clare County Library, old records, old books. There was also some field work. So one of the guys Brian is an engineer, so he was looking at the points in the Heritage Trail from an engineering point of view. Could they handle parking? What sort of access was required? Structural stuff like that, and common sense stuff really. We had to collect a database and decide how it was all going to be entered into this. And of course, the key thing then is interviews. So this is when we ended up with the end result, this was a figure that absolutely gobsmacked me. A total of 80% of all site interpretation material originated from local interviews. So that's a trail that's absolutely rooted within the community. So these were the key, these were the outcomes, stated outcomes from the beginning of the Heritage Trail. There was two streams really. One was, it's a pilot project. It was funded by Fáilte Ireland, the Heritage Council and Clare County Council. So their outcome, they wanted a methodology. If we're to do this again, how can we do it more effectively, more efficiently, streamline it, so that some other community down the road can use the process and do this much easier. But at the same time, we were here while we weren't paying for anything. We were doing a lot of work, so there had to be an outcome from us as participants. So we ended up with a database, a project database, which was cloud storage, and that was used specifically because it meant there is one database. We all know the problems with databases. I have a copy, you have a copy, someone else has a copy. I enter it, and there's no necessity that it doesn't necessarily mean that all the entries are all the same in all the databases. So we have one database, it's in the cloud. If it's altered or amended, everybody sees the amendments. We ended up with, so each site we had full interpretive text. So, thousands of words, really detailed. We also ended up with short and medium, so for maps or for apps or for anything like that, we could use that. We ended up with 55 audio clips from local interviews and 2 songs from one of our local county councillors. So figure, politics, we also ended up with professional photographs, 200 photographs, over 200 photographs. Each site was GPS surveyed, and it could sort of fit in as a walking trail or a cycling trail. All these things would just be dropped in whenever we needed the future use. Primarily, and I guess most importantly from the long-term point of view, we ended up with the database. This is linked directly from our website. So it provides immediate detailed interpretation of all the sites. We're getting a widget designed so we can drop the widget into our members' websites, so it will be just a straight click. So my restaurant, somebody else is walking towards, they can click and get all the information of the local heritage and the Heritage Trail. We're also talking to Michael Fitzsimmons, and we will be talking to Paddy, but he doesn't know about it yet, about how do we drop the database into the Wild Atlantic Way app, so that when the visitors are not just getting to see a list of businesses on the Wild Atlantic Way, wouldn't it be very slick if they can look at nearby and there is the Carrigahoe Castle, all its interpretation, video clips, audio clips, and politicians singing. Last couple of things. We also got a print-ready map of the overall Heritage Trail. The way the whole thing was set up, we can drop this, we can focus this down into I know Carol's going to start laughing at me because actually we stole her idea, but we can drop this down into smaller, so all the information can be made into Carrigahoe, village of Carrigahoe. We can turn it into a 5k looped walk. All the interpretation from there, all the images can all be made, can be taken out and put into that. So we end up with a suite of products. So one overall. Yet, if you want to go to the village of Carrigahoe and you want to have your lunch and have an easy 5k walk around the village, that information will all be there too. I can't let this go by without saying this. At the same time, there was an audit, a heritage audit, performed by 2 local women, Treya Heaps and Frances Birmingham. And over the course of a number of months, they audited nearly 900 items. And this is another figure that absolutely just was jaw-dropping, because the peninsula is actually very small. From the bottom to the top, it's about 35 kilometres, and the baseline is about 5 kilometres wide. It's a very small area. They added 332 previously unrecorded items to the National Monument Register. Now that's a pretty staggering figure. The other thing with this is that this database and the cloud database can talk to each other. So this information can be dropped straight into the Heritage Trail. When we have money and we can get an app, well, you know, you're standing at a designated point in the Heritage Trail, but having all this information in with the Heritage Trail information means that you are going to get a great sense of where you are in the landscape and how it has evolved over thousands of years. Last one, guys, I'm nearly out of here. What we have ended up, there we go. What we have ended up with is a heritage trail that has come from within the community. It's factually correct, obviously, but more importantly, it's not delivered in purely factual terms. It has made locals more aware of their heritage, but also from the visitor's point of view, they are hearing it from local people. We're working on the next phase with a few of our local artists to put hard interpretation on the site. And again, they're local artists. So what we end up with is going to come from within us, and it's part of our view of how we think things should be interpreted in a hard way on the peninsula. It's going to give visitors a reason to slow down, a deeper understanding of the Loophole Peninsula, and differentiating us from every other destination on the Wild Atlantic Way. We got a Facebook message recently, and I messaged back the guy saying I'm stealing this because it was just a really nice snapshot of the Loophole Peninsula. He said it's one of the last true unspoiled beauty spots left in Ireland. No kiosk, no tourist stands, kiosks or gimmicks. Just a place God made on a good day. Our role, I think, is to make sure that we don't change that. Thank you.